Very much.
Good to be here.
And so what's on Trump's mind? We have anti-Trump and pro-Trump both sides tonight. Peter Kuznick from Washington is a prominent historian, director of nuclear studies at American University. Troy Blackwell, Democrat, former advisor to Biden, very strongly anti-Trump. Adele Nazarian, she's a senior foreign policy analyst from Washington. Sierra Claire, foreign policy expert. And we have Salman Sima. She's an Iranian activist who's against the regime. Salman Sima is an Iranian activist who's against the regime, is joining us from Toronto. Okay, let me start with you, Salman, because I think it's the first time I've had you on the program out there. I'm not finding Trump very clear. We've been trying to analyze what's on his mind. Do you think he's going to try and move out right now? Because he's talking about regime change like it's already happened. I don't think it's happened, has it?
So President Trump knows what he's doing, and he's creating the division between the rest of the regime. And finally, regime change will happen, but by the help of U.S. military and by the help of IDF. Regime change will happen by the hands of Iranian people. And the regime is weakened, and Ali Khamenei is gone. Half of the leadership of the regime is gone, and IDF, they going after the checkpoints in the street. Basij and IRGC heavily were targeted, which is a good sign, but targeted attack should continue. Just a couple of months ago, people of Iran, they went with empty hand toward the street and chanting Jawisha. They said that what they want, and they said that what they don't want. They don't want Islamic regime. And if in U.S. administration anyone thinks that they can reach to any reasonable conclusion, they are deadly wrong. You should understand the meaning of Shia regime, jihadi regime. This regime doesn't care about the people. This regime doesn't care about the well-being of the people. Just they care about how they can bring Sharia law, how they can bring the last Shia imam to the power, and you cannot reasoning with these people.
Okay. How do you analyze what Trump has been saying? Peter Kuznick, he says, I'm talking to an Iranian regime. The regime change has already happened. And now I'm closing in on a deal. But in the meanwhile, nothing has changed on the ground. But he says, I'm talking to regime 3. He says the first regime went, a second regime came in, and the third regime is now taking over. We don't know who's in the second regime. We don't know who's in the third regime either. But he claims to be speaking to some people who he says are sending him gifts like 20 boats of oil as a goodwill measure through the Strait of Hormuz. There is no visual or evidentiary proof of any of this, Pete. Any of this. These are only claims that his core constituency seems to be lapping up. What do you think is happening? Is he just desperately trying to find a way out and not commit the troops that are so close?
That's a matter of negotiating.
That's a pattern of negotiating. Okay, Peter.
Yeah, that's the art of negotiating. Yes.
But who is he negotiating with? No, Salman. You have to negotiate with.
No one knows. No one knows. That's a technique that that what happened right now in Iran. Some part of the hardcore people, the grassroots of the regime, those stupid besieged, they are saying that, oh, Ghalibaf is selling us to the West. The other said that, no, Ghalibaf is stand on the Shia value, They are accusing each other, and which is so good, okay. And I don't want to say that I have trust to President Trump because I have trust to no politician, but this is a man that know what he is doing.
But who is he talking to? Adele, Sierra, who is he talking to?
So when President Trump says things like
no one knows, even the Islamic regime, they don't know that who is the master person that's talking with the Trump. They are accusing each other for being a spy. They are accusing each other for being betrayed to.
I'm an American. I'm an American, and I can answer that.
Yeah.
Sorry, respectfully, nice to see you on. You're not an American, so you can speak from a Canadian perspective. So, as an American, I can tell you that President Trump is speaking to the American people. President Trump is an America First candidate. He's American First candidate, president, and commander in chief. So he is speaking to the American people. His first priority is to make sure America is safe going into the next phase of our multipolar world, global order. When he says that he received a gift of 20 tankers, that doesn't mean literally it was gifted to him. That means it's his way of saying that, look, we went in, we did what we had to do, and because of our strength and our perseverance, and because of his strategic, skills of however he wants to call it, this is seen as a gift or a boon as a result of what he's done. Now, do I think
No, one minute. Adele, it's getting too metaphorical for me. You are saying that the 20 oil tankers may not be 20 oil tankers, they may be 20 bouquets.
No, they're oil tankers. But when he says it's a gift, he doesn't mean it was literally gifted to him, to America. What he means is it's a result of the toughness that he's displayed that America.
But where are these oil tankers, Adele? Where is the visual proof?
Know. And frankly,
I mean, oil tankers are visible items.
I know, but I wouldn't even expose that because they could be targeted. You know what I mean? But what I can say is this: President Trump, I know that.
But he could be making all of this up, Adele. This could be making all of this up.
I don't think he's lying about that. I think we're going to end up seeing how the markets look. The markets did a complete, whiplash from Monday of this week, last week rather. Being 1,000 points up in the Dow and then zooming down. It was crazy in a correctional market stage. And I think we can see that the oil tanker is being released, the oil strategically being released onto the global market is going to indicate.
Is it possible here? Is it possible here, Adele? Is it possible? I'm just throwing this to you and Sierra on the right. Is it possible that he's getting into granny's tales because he doesn't know what to do now? So he's going to keep making up stories about oil tankers and reopening the Strait of Hormuz, and 3 regimes and regime change already happened. But who's going to believe anything anymore?
I think you're going to believe when boots are on the ground, which is why I don't agree.
So you think he'll put boots on the ground?
I think boots on the ground is going to happen. I do see that happening, and I think it has to happen at this point. Sierra, I'd love to hear your perspective.
But he said, I don't want to put boots on the ground a few days.
I would disagree. I don't think President Trump wants to put boots on the ground. I mean, it's obviously a possibility. He doesn't rule anything out, so, neither should we, but I think it's a very remote possibility. I think that what we're getting lost on here is the regime change and what that means to different people. President Trump, when he's talking about regime change, he's talking about somebody he can negotiate with, somebody who is reasonable. And if by reasonable, that's as Adele was trying to explain, like, if there is enough force and there is somebody who is finally willing to say, we are facing a threat that we cannot take on, so now we are ready to talk, that is something that President Trump is willing to then go into a negotiation with. When you're talking about regime change for the Iranian people, that's also still a possibility. These negotiations don't take that away. The Iranian people can still rise up when it's safe, when it's the right time, and they can implement whatever regime that they want to implement, which may look drastically different from the regime that President Trump is now dealing with. I think both of those things are still possible, but President Trump, when he says regime change, he means somebody who is reasonable, that is going to say, we cannot face this threat.
Don't you think at some point of time, he's going to have to name the person here, Peter Kuznick,
he's going to have to name the person he's talking to. It can't be Raza Pahlavi.
Arnab, during his first term, the Washington Post documented 30,573 lies that Trump told, 30,573 falsehoods. So it certainly makes sense that you mistrust what people are saying, because Trump contradicts himself every sentence. He didn't go into this with a plan. And you listen to that Fleets guy, you have tremendous patience to listen to that idiocy. But the thing that's significant about it is that what Trump's surrounded with. His daily briefings begin with 2 minutes of video of things blowing up in Iran. That's how they get his attention.
Yes.
And then he's surrounded by the Hegseths and the Millers and the Netanyahus, the Rupert Murdochs, and people like Fleets, who just praise him and feed his ego and lie to him about how great things are going.
He's actually not surrounded by Netanyahu. Actually, he's not, and that's why Pence has not Pence. JD Vance has been the person in charge of negotiating with Netanyahu. So please don't put that fallacy out there. Don't push that fallacy of Netanyahu being in Trump's ear. Do not do that.
And Kushner were the ones who are negotiating. Now they bring in the Laurel and Hardy, Vance and Rubio. First it's a Cheech and Chong. I mean, these are idiots. The Omani foreign minister said that Witkoff did not even understand what Iran was offering, and he told Trump that the deal is off and it's time to use military force. When Obama negotiated the JCPOA, he had scores of nuclear experts and technical experts, not
and
Witkoff and Kushner. What?
And it was a complete flub. It was a disaster.
It was not. It was working, you idiot. They gave up their nuclear program. They shipped out 98% of enriched uranium. They mothballed 97% of their centrifuges.
President Obama's
the nuclear program. The IAEA and everybody else documented it. They did not have a nuclear program under the JCPOA. And Trump tore it up, and that's where they began the enrichment. So stop your lies and stupidity and ignorance.
It's not. You're fired. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay.
You can make a joke of it, but people are dying.
People are dying. And you know what? That's the problem. The problem is because you are going around saying that President Obama, he's an amazing orator, but his nuclear policy on Iran was a disaster, an unmitigated disaster. And people can go on and say that the $150 billion that was given to Iran was Iran's money to begin with. It actually wasn't, because you can't negotiate with a terrorist regime. And you had Americans and Iranian Americans, dual citizens, other nationalities.
But now what? Adele, but now what is... Now what happens is America ready to pay the price of a Vietnam or Afghanistan kind of long drawn out war in which American body bags come back home? One thing you're clear on this, and Troy, that if there is anything close to a ground offensive, there are going to be casualties. Because this is a regime in Iran, you may hate them, but the fact is, for them, it's become an issue of survival. I'm not saying they are good. I'm not saying they are morally superior. What I'm saying is they're fighting in a way that nobody, no Marco Rubio, no J.D. Vance, no Pete Hegseth ever thought or told Trump they would. Now, everybody is making explanations and trying to look cool about this, but is America ready for that kind of loss? Troy, that what we saw over the weekend, No King's protest, is that a minuscule minority of radicals, as was described by Friedrich just a while back, who represent nobody, who are only being paid a lot of money to come on the streets?
With respect to Friedrich, no, it was not a group of radicals. What it was is almost 10 million Americans across over 3,500 cities. And what we're seeing is that people are saying loud and clear, President Trump is a wannabe tyrant, and people do not want a tyrant as their president. There's multiple factors consider as we're speaking about the situation in Iran. This is costing the United States over $10 billion a year. Part of the reason why people voted for Trump and people felt that they could trust Trump was that the president ran on America first. He had an America first agenda, and that's not what the American people are getting from this president. The amount of money that we are spending daily on the war in Iran, which by the way has no strategy, we don't have an exit plan, there still has not been a clear explanation to the American people. That same amount of money could go to our healthcare system. That same amount of money could go to our education system. It could support our elderly and our children. That can be able to support being able to get universal child care for people. We could be able to bail out our farmers who are in need, but we're not being able to do that. So we're not even focused on the American people first. And I don't think that the vast majority of Americans want boots on the ground. That's not what they want. As we mentioned, we're losing thousands of people in this. We've already lost 13 servicemen in this war. That's not what people want. And I think a big piece of this comes down to the fundamental belief of Our role as the United States is to maintain diplomatic relationships with countries. It's not to police countries. It's not to govern other countries. No one here, by any far stretch of imagination, is sympathetic to the Iranian regime or the Ayatollah. But what we are saying is that there has to be a clear strategy here. And for over 40 years, we've been able to maintain the relationship that we've had. And both Democratic and Republican presidents have not invaded Iran and started a war because they understood.
The side that loses, Sierra and Adele, sorry to interrupt you there, Troy, but the side that loses makes the concessions. Or the side that is losing makes the concessions. Now, please explain to me, Sierra, unless you are losing, why is America making concessions? Why is America saying you can buy Russian oil? Why is America lifting sanctions on Iranian oil? Lifting sanctions on Iranian oil. The Iranians are hammering left, right, and center and attacking American military bases. But America, as a concession, has lifted sanctions on Iranian oil already in transit, all loaded onto ships. Right on or before the 20th of March, which means till 20 days after the killing of Khomeini, if you loaded oil onto ships, you can sell them. That's not victory behavior, Sierra. That's a concession by the Americans. Unless America is losing, why is it making concessions?
That is not a sign of America losing. That is a sign of the rest of the world is overreacting. They are talking that this oil crisis is acting like it's going to stretch on for years when it's really a few weeks, which most developed countries can withstand, especially those that already have reserves, which many of the loudest complainers actually do. And so that is just America responding, trying to be a good ally. As my friend on the other side pointed out, we are a good ally and we respond to our allies' concerns when they raise them with us. Another thing I want to point out is the money. So far, all of this money is coming out of the Defense Department budget that was already approved by Congress. And the money, if we keep talking about, oh, we spend so much money on defense, we could spend it on other things. It's going to fraud. The money that is not being spent on defense is literally going to fraud. So that is not a concern for the American people right now, I have to say. There have been polls that show that the American people do support this operation in Iran. And the money that could have been spent on something else is going to protect American national security instead of fraud. So out of those two options, I'll take national security.
But isn't this looking like Putin? You know, this Putin thought that he would get into Ukraine and finish it off in 4 or 5 days. Only that was closer. There is a clear strategic interest and there's a historical angle here. That's not here. And, you know, as CNBC reported, I think that if the approval rating has sunk below 40%, then what if Republicans lose both chambers of the Congress, US Congress? What happens then, Troy? I mean, see, putting a brave face to it is one thing, because Trump may have thought, Troy, that this will not hit his domestic interests. It's only going to benefit. What if it goes on for another 2 weeks, Troy?
I don't think it's going to